Episode 56 VZ. July 17, 2024 Green Quest Eco Adventures game for Gen Alpha created by a Nigerian. In Episode 56 VZ1, the White House Council on Environmental Quality Newsletter. 2. Alabama 3, California 4, Montana 5, New York 6, Pennsylvania 7, Utah 8, Canada 9, Europe. Combustion and domestic heating appliances account for an average of 30% of total air pollutants in the city studied. 10. Ireland. Burning solid fuels such as coal peat and wood for heat over a long period is associated with poor mental health and well-being in older people. 11. Nigeria and the United Kingdom, London. Nigerian techie using gamification to tackle climate change in London. 12. India 13, Thailand 4, PM 2.5 and human health. Main content. 1. The White House Council on Environmental Quality Newsletter. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates of 501c3 nonprofit organization. July 17, 2024. Greetings. Environmental news. Electric vehicles and jobs and manufacturing government investment of $1.7 billion across 8 states. Last Thursday, the Biden-Harris administration announced $1.7 billion to support the conversion of 11 shuttered or at-risk auto manufacturing and assembly facilities across 8 states, Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Illinois, Indiana, Maryland, and Virginia, to manufacture electric vehicles and their supply chain. These investments will create and retain thousands of good-paying union jobs and support the American auto communities that have driven the U.S. economy for generations. The White House Council on Environmental Quality (CEQ) held a White House convening on accelerating clean energy deployment. CEQ's new bipartisan permitting reform implementation rule and the President's permitting action plan. Earlier in the month, President Biden and the Biden-Harris administration also announced new actions to protect workers and families from the impacts of extreme weather and to support disadvantaged communities that are marginalized by underinvestment and most at risk to the impacts of climate change. These actions are the latest examples of how President Biden is delivering on the most ambitious climate and environmental justice agenda in American history, ensuring that no community is left behind. The announcements include the Department of Labor's Occupational Safety and Health Administration (OSHA) proposed the first ever federal safety standard to protect workers from excessive heat. If finalized, OSHA projects the rule would help protect approximately 36 million workers and substantially reduce heat injuries, illnesses, and deaths in the workplace. The Department of Homeland Security's Federal Emergency Management Agency announced nearly $1 billion in awards through the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Program, a Justice 40 covered program, for 656 projects across the country to help communities protect against disasters and natural hazards. The Department of Homeland Security Federal Emergency Management Agency published a final rule to implement the Federal Flood Risk Management Standard (FFRMS). The standard is a flexible framework to increase resilience against flooding. The Department of Transportation made available over $600 million through the Reconnecting Communities pilot program, a Justice 40 covered program funded by the President's Investing in America agenda to fund locally driven projects in communities that have been cut off by transportation infrastructure decades ago. This funding opportunity builds upon the $3.3 billion that President Biden announced in March 2024 to help rectify the damage done by past transportation projects and drive economic growth in communities across the country. The White House released a 6-month update on building a thriving clean energy economy in 2023 and beyond. The most recent available data indicate the President's agenda has supported robust investment in the construction of manufacturing facilities and strong performance in key targeted industries including solar and wind energy, grid-scale energy storage, and electric vehicles. DOI announced its approval of the Atlantic Shores South Offshore Wind Energy Project, the United States' 9th commercial-scale offshore wind energy project approved under President Biden's leadership. The administration has now approved more than 13 gigawatts of clean energy from offshore wind energy projects, enough to power nearly 5 million homes. DOE announced $18.5 million to 4 states and 20 local governments for the next round of formula grants through the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program, a Justice 40 covered program. Keep reading for more updates from the Biden-Harris administration. Get involved. Save the date. White House Summit on Environmental Justice in Action on Wednesday, July 24, 2024. The Biden-Harris administration will host the first ever White House Summit on Environmental Justice in Action. The summit will highlight President Biden and Vice President Harris' progress on advancing environmental justice, celebrate local efforts to create healthier communities, and catalyze further action to build a more equitable and just future. You will hear from community leaders, environmental justice advocates, senior Biden-Harris administration officials, and more. Date Wednesday, July 24, 2024 at 11:00 a.m. Eastern Time. U.S. EPA established the National Environmental Youth Advisory Council (NEYAC) in 2023 to provide independent advice and recommendations to the administrator on how to increase EPA's efforts to address environmental issues with an emphasis on communities below 29 years of age. Council members will provide a perspective on how climate change affects youth communities. The National Environmental Youth Advisory Council (NEYAC) will convene a virtual public meeting on Wednesday, July 17, 2024 from 12:00 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Read the Federal Register notice. Registration to register, email nayac@epa.gov. Date July 17, 2024 from 12:00 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. ET2. Alabama SDSO acts swiftly when live ammo discharged in burning house. Transportation Security Administration would frame home. Tracy has a knack of stepping in when situations are beginning to spin out of control, said Lower Alabama Airport's TSA manager. 3A, California Coronado new beach fire policy on Coronado South Beach takes effect July 18. Coronado times clean wood and charcoal fires are still allowed in the city-provided fire pits or in personal fire pit devices. On North Beach and Central Beach. 3B, California Orange County dog found dead after fire tears through Orange County home KTLA block of Brazo in Laguna Woods. The first arriving crew found a single-story house with smoke, showing the Orange County Fire Authority posted. 4A, Montana Billings Horse Gulch fire grows to over 12,700 acres. Burn Billings News Color8.com Horse Gulch fire on July 10, 2024. 4B, Montana Episode 02 Air Pollution. Montana Public Radio air pollution where the particles are less than 2.5 micrometers in diameter or PM 2.55A. New York Buffalo thank God nobody was hurt. Severe weather knocks down trees, power lines, and Alden WKBW wood burning stove is which heats her house. Other total losses include her grill, her granddaughter's monster truck, wood racks, and patio furniture. 5B, New York Norwood neighborhood notes air quality advisory. More Norwood news: reduce or eliminate outdoor burning and attempt to minimize indoor sources of PM 2.56, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. Philly area air could be dangerous to some. Tuesday, PADEP patch reducing fine particulate matter. PM 2.5 pollution in the air can be aided by limiting or eliminating fireplace and wood stove use. 7. Utah Salt Lake City get ready for wildfire smoke in Salt Lake. The Salt Lake Tribune, July 15, 2024 comment. Salt Lake City hazy: the precautions for summertime ozone pollution and wildfire smoke driven. PM 2.58, Canada, Alberta. St. Albert spring rain behind lack of summer fires so far. Heat wave creating risk. St. Albert Fire Chief. St. Albert Gazette. Wood burning fire pits on driveways, but not backyards. St. Albert upgrades fire advisory to fire restriction. 9. Europe. Domestic combustion primary source of air pollution in of European cities. ENDS Europe. The analysis, which uses the JRC Sherpa tool to identify sectoral contributions to PM 2.5 pollution, found that urban air quality is still a problem. Emissions from the residential sector, including combustion and domestic heating appliances, account for an average of 30% of total air pollutants in the cities studied. Polish cities such as Warsaw, Krakow, Wrocław, Lodz, and Białystok have the highest contributions from the residential sector, ranging from 59% to 64%. 10. Ireland. Burning coal peat and wood is associated with poorer mental health. ESRI finds the Irish Times. Burning solid fuels such as coal peat and wood for heat over a long period is associated with poorer mental health and well-being in older people. 11. Nigeria and the United Kingdom, London. Nigerian techie using gamification to tackle climate change in London. Nigeria info FM PM 2.5 levels will be above WHO guidelines by 2030 unless London does more. The most deprived communities are still seeing higher. Nigerian techie using gamification to tackle climate change in London, July 15, 2024. Excerpts edited by Rozep for brevity and clarity in relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. A Nigerian tech innovator in the UK currently working as a product manager is passionate about using technology to teach climate change to the coming generations. She created Green Quest, an app that encourages children's environmental conservation through educational games and stories. Green Quest is aimed at local kids in the heart of London, aged 5 to 11, to ensure the lessons learned are rooted in their communities. Green Quest is an edtech platform that uses fun games and stories to teach children about waste management. In the United Kingdom, London PM 2.5 levels will be above WHO guidelines by 2030, unless London does more. The most deprived communities are still seeing higher pollution levels despite the progress, according to a 2023 report on London's climate. Green Quest, bridging the climate knowledge gap. So it's not out of place if this urgent need for comprehensive climate action allows the next generation, especially Generation Alpha, to play its part, starting with climate change education and the behavioral changes required to help curb climate change. Her Green Quest introduces games where kids can join in, like Sort It Out, an exercise in proper waste sorting, and Green Guess, testing knowledge of eco-friendly practices via a quiz. Sort It Out is an interactive game designed to teach children about proper waste sorting. In this game, players are presented with various household items and must decide whether each item belongs in the trash, recycling, or compost bin. Green Guess challenges players with multiple choice questions about sustainability, promoting critical thinking about everyday objects and their environmental impact. Local relevance and impact. What sets Green Quest apart is its adaptability to local waste management practices and environmental challenges. This customization makes the app's lessons more relatable and impactful for young learners. The journey to create Green Quest began with a hackathon organized by Startup Discovery School, SDS, in collaboration with Lambeth Council. I learned about the hackathon through SDS's announcement for their inaugural event aimed at women in STEM to build climate solutions. The chance to contribute to climate action while potentially winning prizes and accessing an incubator program was incredibly appealing, the game creator recalls. Expanding Green Quest's reach. Green Quest potential extends beyond waste management, with plans to cover other sustainability issues like energy conservation and biodiversity. Condensing my vision into a workable minimum viable product MVP within 14 hours was the biggest challenge. Green Quest has a mobile experience that lags behind some of its competitors like EcoKids and Earth Rangers, higher subscription fees, and a less intuitive interface that might be a barrier for younger children. Bringing climate education to Nigeria. Climate change education, especially for school children, is at its early stages in Nigeria. Many local communities remain unaware of the implications of poor waste management and what children can do if educated properly. Replicating Green Quest in Nigeria could be a big boost to environmental education. A Nigerian man is a tech and innovation ecosystem leader who in the last 9 years has been hosting a tech conference in Nigeria called Startup South. He says hackathons are not a new thing in Nigeria, but the outcomes usually go unreported. He is also not quite sure how often hackathons are held in Nigeria, especially those focused on climate. Hackathons require funding and support to happen, and even though there are lots of corporate, well-funded foreign and local organizations that should be getting involved in the tech ecosystem in Nigeria, they are not engaging, the Nigerian man explained. He said he foresees and implementing Green Quest in many schools and communities in Nigeria. His upcoming tech conference Startup South 9 on October 3rd and 4th, 2024, will have a session on climate resilience. Technology can be applied to produce more climate-friendly products, which can be used not just in rural areas, but even in urban areas. He said, adding that while local governments do not have control over integrating climate education into the Nigerian school curriculum, they have control over waste management and can do more to improve behavioral patterns towards climate change. What it will take may be no more than a replication of Green Quest in Nigeria to cause a turnaround shift in climate education, empowering the next generation with knowledge and skills for effective combat of climate change. 12. India Kolkata experts call for alignment of Indian air quality standards with WHO standards. Kolkata News Times of India. If the PM 2.5 level reaches 250, it is like smoking 12 cigarettes. A child born in a polluted city where the PM 2.5 is. 13. Thailand Bangkok toxic smog prompts Bangkok to shut schools for a week. WIC News PM 2.5 is a mixture of liquid droplets and solid particles that can include smoke, one of the main measures of the air quality index. 14. PM 2.5 and human health. 14a. PM 2.5 and angina hospitalizations. Effects of major air pollutants on angina hospitalizations. A correlation study. BMC Public Health Biomed Central. The results showed a significant positive correlation between PM 2.5 and angina hospitalization. 14b. PM 2.5 and inflammatory skin disease. Air pollution and inflammatory skin disease. Can clinicians make recommendations to JAMA Network? The authors found that long-term exposure to air pollutants including PM 2.5 14c, PM 2.5 and psoriasis joins list of diseases tied to air pollution. MedPage Today Biobank program with median follow-up of 11.9 years showed that average annual exposure to PM 2.5 14d, PM 2.5 and public health threat. Scientists warn of major threat to public health that could impact thousands. Yahoo! Particulate matter less than 2.5 micrometers could reach 110,000 by 2050. This is in part because of a rapidly increasing Korean population. The cool down. A recent study warns of the potential impact of particulate matter PM on public health, especially aging populations. 14e, PM 2.5 and rhinitis. Causal association between air pollution and allergic rhinitis. Asthma Frontiers. This study utilizes the Mendelian randomization MR technique to explore the potential causal links between air pollution components. PM 2.5